I'm 75 years old. Last month, I drove past a bridge I helped design 43 years ago. It's still standing, concrete and steel, exactly where I left them. My brother has been dead for 28 years. I spent more time on that bridge than I spent talking to him in the last decade of his life. And I'm only telling you this because I don't want you to understand that sentence the way I do. Everything you believe about building a good life is probably wrong. I believed it too. For 49 years, I believed that if I worked hard enough, if I built enough, if I provided enough, everything else would take care of itself, the career, the house, the respect of people I admired. I had all of it, and none of it saved me from waking up one day and realizing I had constructed my entire life around things that didn't matter. I'm not making this video to sound wise. I'm 75 and I'm running out of time. There are things I need to say before I can't say them anymore. Not for my sake, for yours. I was a construction engineer in Texas for 31 years, bridges mostly, some highways, a few commercial buildings toward the end. I liked the work. There's something satisfying about watching a structure take shape, knowing it'll be there long after you're gone. I used to think that was my legacy, steel and concrete, things that last. I was wrong about what lasts. At 54, I was supervising a high-rise project in downtown Houston. August, hot as hell. We were 3 weeks behind schedule because of weather delays, and I was pushing the crew harder than I should have. That's not an excuse, that's just what happened. I was standing near the base of the structure checking some measurements, arguing with a foreman about rebar spacing. I heard someone scream, not a word, just a sound. The kind of sound that makes your whole body go cold before your brain catches up. A steel beam had slipped from a crane hoist, 1,200 pounds, 14 stories up. I didn't see it fall. I just heard the impact, felt the ground shake. Turned around and saw Marcus lying there, 26 years old. The kid had been on the job for maybe 4 months. The beam had clipped his leg on the way down. I could see bone. I could see things I don't want to describe. The beam landed 8 feet from where I'd been standing, 8 feet. If I'd taken 2 steps to check the measurements myself instead of yelling at the foreman, if the wind had shifted, if anything had been slightly different. They took Marcus to the hospital. I followed. I sat in that waiting room for 4 hours while they tried to save his leg. And the whole time I couldn't stop shaking. Not because of what I saw, because of what almost happened. Because I kept thinking if that beam had fallen 8 feet to the right, there'd be nothing left of me to sit in this chair. And then I started thinking about what I would have left behind. What would people say? He worked hard. He was dedicated. He built some nice structures. Maybe they'd name a conference room after me. Maybe they'd forget me in 5 years, probably the second one. I sat in that waiting room, and I realized something that scared me more than the beam. I had spent 30 years building things, and I had no idea what I'd actually built with my life. Here's the thing nobody warns you about when you're young. You think you have time. You think there's always later. You tell yourself you'll get to the important stuff once the urgent stuff is handled, but the urgent stuff never ends. There's always another project, another deadline, another problem that needs you right now. And the important stuff, it waits. It's patient. It doesn't demand anything. So you keep pushing it back. Next month, next year. When things settle down, things don't settle down. I'm 75 years old, and I'm telling you, things never settle down. You either make time for what matters, or you don't. And if you don't, you wake up one day and realize you spent your whole life being busy instead of being alive. I used to think I was building something meaningful, career, reputation, financial security for my family. I told myself that's what a good man does. He provides, he works, he sacrifices. And sacrifice felt noble. It felt like love. But here's what I've learned. Sacrifice becomes an excuse. It becomes a way to avoid the harder work of actually being present. It's easier to stay late at the office than to sit with your wife and talk about something real. It's easier to say, I'm doing this for the family, than to ask yourself if your family actually wants what you're giving them. I had a colleague named Bill, knew him for 20 years. He started his own firm at 40. Good engineer, better businessman. Built something real, made money, earned respect. Bill used to say he'd slow down when he hit 60. Take his wife to Europe, learn to play golf, actually use that lake house he bought and never visited. At 60, he said 65. At 63, he had a stroke in his office, dead before the ambulance arrived. I went to his funeral. His daughter spoke. She was maybe 30, 32. She stood up there, and she didn't talk about his accomplishments. She didn't mention the firm, the buildings, or anything. She said, I used to leave drawings on his desk when I was little. Horses mostly. I loved horses. He'd call me from work sometimes and tell me he put them on his wall. After he died, we cleaned out his office. The drawings weren't there. I don't think they were ever there. That's what she remembered, not what he built. What he didn't see, your regrets won't be about your failures. They'll be about your absences. I don't think about projects that went wrong. I don't lose sleep over contracts I didn't win or mistakes I made on the job. None of that keeps me up at night. You know what does? My son played football in high school 4 years. I told myself I'd make it to his games when I could, when the schedule allowed, when there wasn't a deadline, a client meeting, or a site visit that couldn't wait. I made it to maybe half his games, maybe less. I don't actually know the number. I never counted. That's the worst part. I never even counted. There was one game, his junior year. They were playing for the district championship. He'd been talking about it for weeks. I told him I'd be there. I meant it when I said it. The morning of the game, I got a call. Problem at a site in Galveston. Structural issue. They needed me there. I told myself it was an emergency. I told myself he'd understand. I told myself there would be other games. I drove to Galveston, fixed the problem, drove back. The game was over by the time I got home. They'd won. My son was in his room. He didn't yell at me, didn't say anything really, just looked at me with this expression I still can't describe. Not angry, something worse, like he'd expected it, like he'd already learned not to count on me being there. He's 47 now. We have a fine relationship, polite, careful. We talk on the phone. We see each other at holidays. But there's a distance there that I put there, one missed game at a time, and I can't go back and fix it. I can't re-attend the games I skipped. Time doesn't offer refunds. My brother David was 2 years older than me. We grew up in a small town in Oklahoma, shared a bedroom until I left for college. Summer nights we'd catch fireflies in mason jars, put them on the windowsill, watch them blink until we fell asleep. When I moved to Texas, we stayed close at first, phone calls, visits when we could manage it. But life gets complicated. I got busy. He had his own problems. There were disagreements, small ones at first. Then we just stopped calling, stopped visiting, stopped trying. 8 years. That's how long we went without a real conversation. 8 years of silence, because neither of us wanted to be the first one to pick up the phone. He got diagnosed with lung cancer when I was 47. By the time they found it, it was everywhere. They gave him 8 months. He got 6. I told myself I'd go see him. I'd take time off. I'd drive to Oklahoma, sit with him, and say all the things I should have said years ago. I'd fix it before it was too late. I waited. There was always something. A project is wrapping up, a meeting I couldn't miss. Next week, next month, soon. He died on a Tuesday. I was in a conference room in Dallas looking at blueprints for a parking garage. By the time I got the call, he'd been gone for 3 hours. I don't know what I would have said to him. Maybe I would have told him I was sorry. Maybe I would have told him I remembered the fireflies. Maybe I would have just sat with him and said nothing. I'll never know. And that's the thing about time. It doesn't warn you. It doesn't send a notice. It just runs out, and you're left holding all the things you meant to say. After the accident in Houston, after Marcus and the steel beam and those 4 hours in the waiting room, I made changes. I stepped back from work, not all at once, but I started saying no, started turning down projects that would have consumed me, started leaving the office at a reasonable hour, started being home for dinner. My wife had wanted to go to Alaska for 20 years. She'd bring it up every few years, show me pictures, talk about glaciers and whales and the northern lights, and every time I'd say, yes, we should do that. Next summer, when this project wraps up, when we've saved a little more, next summer never came. There was always a reason. After the accident, I booked the trip, 2 weeks. Told my partners I was going, and that was that. We flew into Anchorage, rented a camper, drove up to Denali, spent 3 days just being there. No schedule, no deadlines. Just mountains and silence and my wife next to me. One night we were sitting outside the camper. It was late, but the sun was still up. That Alaska summer light that doesn't make sense if you've never seen it. We weren't talking, just sitting, and she started crying, quietly. I asked her what was wrong. She said, I waited 23 years for this. I almost gave up. I didn't know what to say. So I just held her hand, and I thought about all the years I'd made her wait, all the trips I'd postponed, all the times I'd chosen work over her without even realizing I was making a choice. She forgave me. She's generous that way, but I've never forgiven myself, not fully, because I know how close I came to never giving her this at all. In these last 21 years, I've learned more about living than I did in the first 54. And what I've learned isn't complicated. It's embarrassingly simple, actually. So simple that I ignored it for half a century because I thought the answer had to be harder than that. Time with people you love, that's what matters. Work that means something to you, not just work that impresses other people. Experiences, not possessions. Being there. Saying the things you mean while the people you love are still alive to hear them. I know what you're thinking. You've got responsibilities, bills, people are depending on you. You can't just drop everything and go watch glaciers. I'm not telling you to. I'm telling you to stop pretending that later is a real place. It's not. Later is a lie you tell yourself so you don't have to make hard choices now. And one day later becomes never, and you're left with nothing but the choices you didn't make. If you died tomorrow, would you be at peace with how you spent your time? Not whether people would be impressed at your funeral. Not whether you achieved enough. Just, would you be okay with how you lived? If the answer is no, then I need you to understand something. The discomfort you feel right now reading that question, that's not a sign that the question is wrong. It's a sign that something needs to change. I'm 75 years old. I've been healthy since that day in Houston, but I know how this ends. Every morning I wake up is borrowed time. Every day is a day I almost didn't get. We're all on borrowed time. Most people just don't know it yet. They think they're exempt. They think death is something that happens to other people later in the abstract. It's not abstract. It's Tuesday afternoon, and a steel beam falls, and everything you thought you had time for suddenly doesn't matter. I have grandchildren now, 4 of them. I watch them growing up, and I see the same patterns I fell into. They're busy, they're stressed, they're chasing things they think will make them happy. They're learning to postpone joy the same way I did. I try to tell them. They nod. They say they understand, but they don't. Not really. You can't understand this until you've lost something that can't be replaced. And by then, understanding comes too late. Maybe you're different. Maybe you're reading this and something is landing differently than it would have a year ago or 5 years ago. Maybe you're ready to hear it, or maybe you'll do what I did. Nod. Agree. Go back to your life. Tell yourself you'll think about it later. I hope you don't. But I understand if you do. I was you once. I could tell you what to do. Call your parents. Take the trip. Quit the job that's killing you. Have the conversation you've been avoiding. I could give you a list. But lists don't change people. Near-death experiences barely change people. The only thing that changes people is when the cost of staying the same finally exceeds the cost of changing. I hope you figure that out before the cost gets too high. I hope you don't need a steel beam falling 8 feet from your head to wake you up. I hope you don't need to bury your brother to realize you should have called him. I'm 75. If I'm lucky, maybe 10 more years. Probably less, and that's okay. These last 21 years have been worth more than the 54 that came before. Not because anything dramatic changed. Because I finally started paying attention. I stopped building things that don't last. I started building things that do. The irony is I'm happier now with less time left than I was at 30 when I thought I had forever. Because when you understand that time runs out, you stop wasting it. You stop waiting for conditions to be perfect. You stop postponing the things that matter. You have a choice. You've always had a choice. You're making it right now, whether you realize it or not. The clock doesn't pause while you decide. What are you going to do with the time you have left?